Good evening. Welcome to Guitars and Music. We discuss guitars, great music like we are tonight. We review gear occasionally, and I also play sometimes. I do tribute videos with my Strat and other things. Tonight, I just got this new album, McCartney III. There's the vinyl. I'm actually going to be reviewing the album properly, hopefully in the next 24 to 36 hours. But in the meantime, I kind of wanted to do something a little more timely, which is a discussion of the song Lavatory Lil, one of the standout songs on this new fine album. I'm going to give it a very positive review. I'll just preface that. I hope you'll watch it once again. I hope you'll subscribe, by the way. But Lavatory Lil is an interesting song. It's one of the best songs on the album, I think. It's kind of a fun song. It's got kind of a quirky title. It sounds like it could be, Bungalow Bill or Rocky Raccoon or Lovely Rita. It's kind of got a raw, rocky rock quality, fit right on the White Album, almost. But Lavatory Lil is also very biting, and a lot of people have speculated about who it's about. It's kind of scathing, really. But he says, look out for Lavatory Lil. You think that she's a winner when she's cooking you dinner, but she's really moving in for the kill. Elsewhere, he says, look out for Lavatory Lil. You think she's being friendly, but she's really looking for a Bentley. So he's kind of talking about somebody that he's describing as Lavatory Lil, who seems like she's kind of two-faced, kind of sneaky, a gold digger, and he calls her Lavatory Lil. Now, there's been some speculation about who this is. Of course, we're all interested in Sir Paul's biography and all those kinds of details. There's been some speculation that it is Heather Mills McCartney, his second wife. Now, Paul himself has denied that it's about Heather Mills. So, of course, he denied it. So that's, I guess, the end of the story. But it sure does, but that hasn't stopped people from saying it's about Heather Mills McCartney. One of my favorite YouTube channels for watching discussions of the Beatles is a guy named John Heaton. And he reviewed this album, and he said that he didn't think Lavatory Lil would be about Heather Mills McCartney, if for no other reason than that the couple has a daughter together, Beatrice, and he doesn't think that Paul would sort of shame the mother so much when they both obviously love their daughter. I think that's an excellent point. And of course, Paul denied it's about Heather Mills. But I'll tell you, at the end of the video, I'm going to say why I think, at least in some ways, it is about Heather Mills McCartney, and the specific reason that I think that. But it's an interesting question. Of course, if you know the backstory of Heather Mills McCartney, she was born in 1968 in England. She was struck by a car in 1993, which resulted in her losing a leg. Of course, that's very sad. She lost a leg, so she was an amputee victim. And she started doing work for charity. And in 1999, she met Paul McCartney. Now, Paul McCartney was just still in grief from having lost Linda, who by all accounts is, someone he loved very, very much. And they were almost never apart for all those years they were married, even a night or two. And so within a couple years, she had married Paul McCartney. They had a daughter together. But very quickly after the marriage, things began to go south. They only ended up being married together for 5 years. 4, I think, actually, technically. And then it took, because it was such a, there's Paul McCartney, I think, got $1 billion or something. So there was a lot of financial interest in the outcome of the divorce, as you might imagine. But they were married, and during the divorce proceedings, they proceeded to launch charges against each other. I guess my take on it is Paul was more dignified. I think just the idea that she was kind of a gold digger and didn't really deserve all that money. He was very generous to her. He gave her a £360,000 annual allowance when they were married. He loaned her hundreds of thousands of dollars, loaned. I wonder if he ever got the money back. according to what I read, at different times. And she bought her own house. He had a house in L.A. She kind of called it Heather House and started kind of making it as her own. So the press kind of depicted her as a gold digger, kind of Paul's Yoko almost, as it were. And she was often compared to Yoko in that period, actually. Meanwhile, she compared herself to Princess Diana, and she implied Paul was abusive. And she went on a lot, Larry King, she went on a lot of shows, kind of spilling all the dirt on Paul McCartney. Of course, the divorce lawyers get a hold of any little detail and amplify it 1,000 times. From what I understand about divorce, fortunately, I've never been through that, but I do know people, any little thing you've ever done is, fodder for the divorce attorneys to make you look horrible. And one of the things Heather Mills said is Paul was, a horrible cannabis addict, and it was like reefer madness, and just sat around and smoked pot all the time. And of course, they used that against him. But in the midst of this acrimonious divorce, a couple other details came out that made me think that Lavatory Lil is maybe about Heather Mills McCartney. Now, the most interesting one, I think, is this idea of the lavatory. That most democratic and universal of spaces that all humans share. And of course, Heather Mills was she had an amputated limb. So one of the stories is that she said that Paul pushed her in the bathroom and she fell into a bathtub. Now, of course, she's only got one leg, so I imagine pushing someone with one leg is. But Paul vehemently denies it. I really have trouble picturing in my mind Paul McCartney being physically abusive to a woman or anybody for that matter. So he really denied it. But that's one of the things she said in the court. But the other thing that made me even think more of this lavatory image is in TMZ in 2006, I remember reading this at the time, there was an article that said one of the things that came out in the divorce was that she wanted to sleep in the bed with Paul with a bedpan. That way, when she had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, she wouldn't have to crawl to the bathroom, and she would just be able to go to the bathroom in the bed in a bedpan, and Paul didn't really like that. Now, you notice Paul, I'll stick up for Paul, kind of classy. He didn't run around and say that, but that detail did kind of slip out, and I just remember being at one of the more salacious details of that very messy divorce, that she wanted to sleep with this. It was an antique bedpan, apparently, and maybe it was supposed to be extra nice and posh, and somehow that made it a little more palatable. But just that image of going to the bathroom in your bed in a bedpan while you're sleeping with Paul McCartney is a kind of jarring image. Or for that matter, her crawling in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and then being in the bathroom. And that lavatory, to me, if there's any truth to the idea that it's Heather Mills, that idea of the lavatory and the bedpan made me think that there's something to that. And like I said, if Paul didn't really sit down to write a song about Heather Mills, I feel like he must have known that some of those details seem awfully, people are obviously going to think that. So the fact that he denied it, and we believe him, but it hasn't stopped us all from speculating. But that was the thing I took away, is why lavatory. At first I thought, well, maybe it was someone in some kind of a tip girl that, in the foyer of a men's room or something. But I didn't really know. And the more I thought about it, and people started saying it was about Heather Mills, or some people did. And I started thinking lavatory. And I just remembered that very unsavory detail. Of course, when you get divorced, I guess, a lot of times they shouldn't, but, I've been around divorced couples, and when you live with people, you see all their personal details that they hide from the public, and a lot of times that comes out, and that detail had come out in the divorce, which is a very unappetizing detail of this grown woman, just using a bedpan in the bed while Paul was, asleep, or for that matter, crawling to the bathroom. And that would, I guess it might be, most people would consider it a kind of mean thing to throw in someone's face when they've lost a leg. But, on the other hand, in that divorce, Paul lost $24 million. That was 24 million pounds. Now that in 2008 dollars, I think that's about double in 2008 dollars. So it was right around $50 million in 2008. And I imagine there's been some inflation since then. One statistic I read said that she made about $34,000 per day of their wedding. Hell, I'd marry Paul McCartney for $50 million. I'd find a way to deal with it, $50 million, for 4 years. I'd do it, So that probably, Paul's, I have 110 respect for Paul McCartney, but that, if anything pissed him off, that probably pissed him off pretty good, she didn't write Hey Jude. She didn't, write Penny Lane, and she, and the whole life of musical accomplishments he has. Women are exploited sexually. Of course, that's always wrong. But I sometimes think we don't always appreciate the extent to which men are exploited financially, and sometimes they just are expected to shut up and take it. Well, Paul McCartney took a real bath. Of course, I guess some people could say he could afford it, and she did marry him. So we're not really commenting on all the laws and the social policy implications of all that. But no doubt it pissed off Paul pretty bad. But that image of Lavatory Lil, it kind of came out. I don't think Paul ever said, I don't know, but his friends or something, somehow that detail got out that she slept in the bed, or wanted to, with the bedpan, and that she would just go to the bathroom in the bed. And Paul didn't like that, and then that meant she would have to crawl to the lavatory. So if you think about it, that's sad. Going to the bathroom is probably more complicated when you've lost a leg like that. But that was my take on Lavatory Lil, and I just kind of wanted to share that. It's, I guess we're all kind of curious who it was about. Paul probably isn't going to tell us, but it made sense to me. Lavatory Lil. So Heather Mills, she was kind of a gold digger. They say that she was involved in the sex hostess industry before she, when she was young, which often is, they rip men off. And another, when this divorce was going on, somebody that she used to work in a jewelry store when she was younger, and the owner of that jewelry store said she stole 24,000 pounds. This is all pounds, so double it, worth of jewelry. So she didn't need much help in putting up some red flags. Paul's family apparently never liked her, and she didn't like them either. Like a lot of, she saw them as sort of competition for Paul. And, she said that Paul was basically hard to live with because he'd been his own boss since he was 19, and rightly so. Who's going to tell Paul McCartney what to do, huh? Go to hell, Paul McCartney. You write some of these songs. You write here, there, and everywhere, and then you can tell them what to do. But anyway, I thought it made some sense. Not saying that it is or isn't, but I thought that because of that idea of the lavatory, and that was the detail that came back to me when I heard that image of a grown 40-year-old woman sleeping in a bed next to Paul McCartney and wanting to go to the toilet in a bedpan. Lavatory Lil. Or for that matter, kind of crawling around a bathroom in the middle of the night trying to go to the bathroom. Sad image, but yet it's a pretty unsavory one. And if you really wanted to hurt somebody, that would do it. Not laughing about it, but life's complicated sometimes. I'm doing this on December 26th. I hope you had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I hope we have a great 2021. Goodness knows we sure do need it, don't we? Don't we, everybody? I don't know if we have another 2021 doesn't get better. We're all going to be in trouble, huh? Lavatory Lil. Stay tuned. I'm going to be reviewing this album. I just literally got it in the mail today. This has only been open for an hour or two. So I hope you'll consider watching my review when it's posted up, hopefully in the next 36 to 48 hours. God bless you. Good night.